Hello, hello. So just right now, we are going to make a pizza together. And I want to talk about flight and freeze mode, which is why I am making a pizza. And this video, I got my pizza sauce, I got my tomatoes, I got my olives. It's probably gonna be a bit much, but that's okay. I overload, but I like it. So I want to start doing more vlog style videos, and cooking is a big one for a couple different reasons. Cooking for me, I actually find very therapeutic. I don't do it often. I'm not a fancy cook whatsoever. I'm very simple, basic ingredients, basic spices, and I like to make my own food, especially when I'm in my freeze mood. When I'm in my freeze mood, I can be on bed rest for days, weeks at a time. Like, I literally stay put and that's it. And I've been trying to find different ways to get me out of my freeze mode, and so far cooking has been my favorite. I love to eat. I'm not the healthiest eater. I will eat based on my cravings, and I find cooking gives me control over the ingredients that I put in. So as you can see, I'm making a full veggie pizza. And I also find it's therapeutic in a sense that it gets me out of freeze mode. I know what's going on in my pizza. I know it's all healthy food, so I am controlling my health through that. So cooking gets me more in the connection with nature, gets me more connected with myself. It allows me to really see what I'm putting on my food, being a little bit more. I used to just get fast food all the time. Whenever I was in freeze mode, it was like my comfort, it was fast food. And obviously your health doesn't do the best with it. I find getting fast food actually affects my mood. It makes me sad in a way, and it just makes me feel unhealthy. So I am recreating fast food my own way in my own kitchen. Let's go. I also find cooking and working with the different vegetables, it also connects you more to your own intuition. So a lot of the times when we have cravings, our cravings are trying to tell us something, but because of the way society has allowed us to ease into fast food, a lot of the times we're not listening to our body properly. So when I go the cooking from scratch, the natural route, spending time making my own food, it brings me back to my inner self, and it brings me back to my intuition. It's one of the ways that I practice my gratitude, my intention, I practice my peace. Cleaning the house does the same thing for me. I've got my tomatoes, I've got my mushrooms. I'm gonna put those in the fridge later. I've got my spinach, I'm gonna dabble it on top after. I've got my cheese, I've got my olives. And I always use naan bread. I haven't tried them yet. It's from a clay oven. So definitely try them out. I will let you guys know how they taste after. But I don't know why. Just naan bread, sometimes pita bread, but especially naan bread. I mean, it already is in the shape of a pizza. Like, how freaking adorable is that? I'm gonna use all three, just cause I like making extra. I think it's the Slavic in me. Make a big meal and then have leftovers. One of my biggest reasons for wanting to do more vlogs is because I am here to promote a healthier, more spiritual lifestyle, and everything connects to itself. So everything is connected. The way you handle mental health and triggers, so like the flight, freeze, fawn. My biggest ones that I'm going to talk about right now is the freeze and flight. For me, it's very much like when I come into any sort of instance where I'm triggered or I feel unsafe, I'm in survival mode. For me, it's either to freeze, to kind of sit in that situation and to let my mind overthink and race about it. I don't know why, but that's just one of my comforts. It's like quite literally crawling back into my cocoon. And I feel like maybe being a war child, like I never grew up with teddy bears or anything like that. I would just literally hide and sleep. But what that is doing to me personally, and if anybody can't relate to this and you have other things, feel free to use the comments for discussions and conversation. But for me personally, I find that getting into these freeze moods and allowing myself to stay in these freeze moods is actually making things worse for me. Meaning that if I'm not here cooking, I'd probably be in bed all day, and that would probably lower my energy even more. And it also gets me feeling depressed in the sense of I feel lazy, I feel unworthy, I feel like I can't accomplish anything, I feel horrible for spending time in bed. So to avoid me getting stuck in these crappy moods and to feel like I can actually do something about it, I am choosing things like stretching, yoga, cooking, small meals, nothing extravagant, nothing fancy, nothing with major commitment, because I find that commitment gives me flight mode, like flight risk, not flight risk, but it puts me into this flight mode, and then it also activates my freeze mode when I can't totally run away from it. So for example, there's a lot of things that I've been wanting to do in my personal life. So I've been setting these like goals. Some of them are fairly simple, some of them are pretty big. I end up being very disappointed in myself when I can't meet some of my own demands or some of my own goals. And this is an area of healing for me as well. Believing in myself, not looking for outside validation, especially in regards to my own creations, my own ideas, my own business, entrepreneurship. But one of the reasons why I was like, I need to do something and I need to do something now is because I have so many ideas. I'm really creative, and every time I would create something, my mindset, my mental state was just automatically ripping myself apart and like literally bullying myself. And that's one of the things that would put me into my freeze mode, and then I wouldn't get to do my creative idea, or I would make mistakes on it, and I would get into this mindset of I'm never gonna be good enough. It's a little bit more than imposter syndrome. There's just a lot of insecurity and lack there. And that's one of the big things that I'm healing. Doing these little things that don't have this like major commitment is allowing me to have more control over the little moments and the details of my life. So I'm gonna set the oven at 420 because 420 is a great number. Cheers to the coffee. And one big thing that I decided to do was, instead of criticizing myself and getting mad at myself for not being able to stick to these big goals that I had, because I couldn't even pass the first step because I was so critical of myself, I would just break myself. Like, I was my own biggest bully. And now I am making a commitment to myself to be kinder to myself, to be more patient with myself, to slow down. And that has allowed me to really view in more detail the actions that I take. And inaction, not taking action, is an action, hence freeze mode. So I would really get down on myself because I'm like, I know I'm smart, I know I'm creative, I know I'm really good at a lot of stuff. I'd imagine things in my head and I'd be like, oh, it's a terrible idea. And then I'd see it going viral and people be like, I've been waiting for this for so long. And that happens so often that I'm like, what is my problem? Why can't I see how good something is when everybody else can see it? Why is it that I can't believe in myself to just do it? Even if it's just for me, even if it's just for my own enjoyment, why not just do it? And that's one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, was just to really talk about my own healing, some things that I discovered about myself, and for you guys as well. And I'm kind of all over the place. I am very spiritual and I am creative. I create fashion, I do styling, I've done styling and sales like my entire life, and I am very spiritual. I have a lot of psychic abilities. I've had them since I was a kid. I didn't practice a lot of them. There was just a lot of fear around me from other people surrounding me that never allowed me to fully develop my gifts. And I think this is part of the reason why I never really gave myself a chance on anything, was because other people's fears. And whenever I would criticize myself on an idea, it was me basically thinking, so-and-so is gonna say this about it. Somebody's gonna say this about it. Somebody's gonna say that about it. So I would already pick out the imperfections based on what I thought other people were going to say. And that's why I hide and run away. And I think that's part of my self-sabotaging thinking. Like, I can't accept help, but I can't do anything on my own. If I were to get certain success, it can only come from other people. It can't come from me. And I think that's also part of my generational healing as well, lack mindset. And then because I'm a Virgo, I'm like, nope, no one can do it like me. No one's gonna do anything for me. I'm super independent. I'm an independent woman. I can do everything. I'm gonna do it myself. And then I bitch and cry because I haven't done the right things that I'm supposed to be doing to achieve those certain goals. And it's just like a never-ending cycle. But it's all connected. I think another thing I want to mention from the perspective of being a war child, I think that's kind of triggered in the adult me, is that everything I have that I love gets taken away. And I think that's what keeps my heart closed. It keeps me dependent on myself. So I kind of have this mentality of if I expect it to go away, I won't get attached to it. Therefore, if I lose it, it won't hurt as much. And this is one of the things that I struggled with a lot 10 years ago. And it triggered my PTSD like crazy. It sent me into the amount of anger I had at the world for just me existing was insane. And that anger alone, it just made me suppress a lot of emotions, a lot of my sadness. I didn't deal with it. And when you suppress emotions and you don't deal with them, they end up becoming a lot bigger than they're supposed to be. And my problem became so big that I had chronic anxiety. I would wake up in the middle of the night because of panic attacks. I started giving up on my dreams and my goals and my wishes and everything because I just didn't genuinely believe in myself. I genuinely believed that what's the point of starting up my fashion brand when I'm not even that good? What's the point of trying to make my childhood dreams come true, even though I have privilege? I have the ability to, but what's the point when it's all gonna get taken away? What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? And that's kind of been like my whole life's narrative. So going back to the healing part of it, one of the things when I set out to heal was to heal my intuition, because through chronic depression, medication, and just not knowing what's your feelings and what's blown up from suppressing your emotions, one of my big things was to get back into my creativity so that I can be a proper entrepreneurship. So mindset, mental programming, changing the way my mind thought so that it was more optimistic, so that I believed in myself more. But that made me realize how much I actually lost with my intuition, to the point that even now there's a few things happening in my life where I'm like, I don't know how to trust my intuition. Like, so many energies have been messing with my energy. And through the universe's, spiritual tests and tribulations and trials and all of that, you just kind of, it's an overwhelm of energy, and cutting other people off, you do lose a part of yourself. So between all of my issues, I was constantly having an existential crisis. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a little bit of one right now. I remember being so depressed that I would literally think things like, what's the point of even existing if everything that I want in my life to make me happy is just gonna get taken away from me? And I feel like the last few purges that I've had, like end of January and just this past weekend, mid-February, I've had these kind of shadow work purges where that same thought has come up. And time for spinach. And one of the things that it has made me see was how badly depressed I actually was. I find when I get into these freeze modes, it brings up this existential crisis, which brings me back to my suicidal ideation. And now I'm trying to find things and ways to keep me out of that mood so that I have more control over my emotions. Me cooking my not so fancy non-bread pizzas is a great way for me to ground, get out of that freeze mode, get out of those shadow thoughts, and it reconnects me to nature. And it allows me to have this kind of like creative, expressive side without putting so much heaviness and weight on me. So I'm gonna show you guys my pizza. Ain't she pretty? My cookies behind it. So I've got spinach, I'll lift up some. There's tomato, green olives, mushrooms, my spinach, and I love cheese. So I'm gonna do a lot of cheese. My oven's ready, so it's like perfect timing. And yeah, I got lazy, so I went to the bigger shredder. So, 1 second. So, I do feel like this episode was like a bit of a rant, but I want you guys to start paying attention to all of the connections. There's a lot of things about spirituality, and as you start developing your gifts, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of the times when I go through like either ascension upgrades or which is also you developing a higher ability to filter, feel, and see and experience energy, and developing your physical psychic gifts, which is, it's all the same thing. You're gonna go through waves of this existential crisis. You're gonna go through waves of, am I crazy? Do I even wanna be here? And the more gifted you are, like the more energy you're able to carry and express and work with, the more of a target you are. And it's unfortunate, but like I said, it's all connected. So the best ways to deal with it, part of the shadow work, is to do small things daily that make you more conscious of how you're living and how you're thinking. Every day that we do something, it programs our mind. Even if it's in the smallest form, it programs our mind. So if we're constantly going day to day without being conscious of what we're even doing, you have more ability to fall into the traps of survival mode, into the traps of existential crisis, of depression, anxiety, panic attacks. And I find being conscious of your conscious and your subconscious and the things that you're thinking allow you to have more grounding and control of your life. So now, like before, I used to experience a lot of psychosis, which is why I also didn't really believe in my gifts, because everybody tells you you're crazy, stuff like this doesn't exist. And New Age spirituality really, I think it made me more depressed, honestly. Anyways, look at how pretty she is. Hello. So I hope this inspires you in some way, shape, or form. If you need anything, let me know. And if you guys want to talk about the shadows and like the shadow voices and the suicidal thoughts and ideation, let me know. I'll be back to show you my pizza. All right, I love you guys. Happy healing. So here's my pizza. Not gonna lie, the non-bread, I feel like I could have left it in a bit longer. It feels a little flimsy at the end, but we'll see once it dries, just because everything's still hot. So everything's just kind of melting and falling apart. So I gotta let it cool, but I'm eager, I'm excited, and we're having some pretty nice snow outside. So I'm going to my room, eating my pizza, watching the snow and Supernatural, and that is my rest and healing for the day. Yay! Celebrate the little wins, because the little things always make the big difference.